But that does lead to an interesting thing with Bambi and sort of their original films that Disney's made in the past. They're remaking them, aren't they, Marco?
Yeah, I believe that is something that they are planning on doing.
And why would they want to do that? Why would they touch intellectual properties that they have created decades ago? Why would they want to do that?
To quote a one Mr. Eugene Krabs, money. They like money.
Yeah, I am just as pissed as you. And here's the thing. And this goes back to something we were talking about. These live-action remakes. You had the Beauty and the Beast. You had the Cinderella, I believe, in 2015. That was the start of their live-action remakes. You have the Jungle Book since then. I have not heard a single person say, wow, the live-action remake of Beauty and the Beast blew me away. It's my favorite film, the live-action remake. What? The only reason, as Eugene Krabs has stated, is money. Financial gain.
It's for me, like, the thing that makes me so disappointed is that Disney's kind of in this, like, rut right now, where they're just they're not making original content anymore. Like, all of their upcoming projects are, like, sequels or previously established IPs. And so it's disheartening to me seeing that they have, like, all this money and everything, and they're putting it to making it to something we've already seen, rather than making something original. And I get it. Every kid in the world loves Lion King. And yeah, I'll admit, the cast, it's an amazing cast, and it looks pretty, but, like, when I saw the trailer, I felt nothing, because it was just something I've seen 1,000 times already. Mm-hmm. Like, it was just a Lion King.
Also, I'd like to point out that there are so many, while there are so many problems with recreating an intellectual property for really just financial gain, the other thing specific to taking an animated property and trying to make it live action is you have to understand that with animation, you have literally no limits.
Yeah,
you have no limits.
You can make, and, like, that's the thing, like, people, like, animation itself was already taken so, like, lightheartedly, and, like, people always just say, oh, it's just for kids, or it's a genre, but no, it's, like, actually a very well-respected, well-regarded medium of film. And then when you just take something and just remake it into live action, it kind of just completely discredits the original animation. And just, like, they can add so much more inspiration and, like, stuff with, like, I saw this whole thread on Twitter where it was, like, comparing the side-by-side shots from the animation to the live action. It's like they took away all the themes with, like, the colors and the reflection and just the grading and the saturation of, like, Pride Rock and everything. And everything just, like, looks so bland. Yeah. And like, there's somebody I know made, like, the argument where it's like, well, don't you get really excited when, like, a video game gets remastered to look better? But it's like, yeah, but the original video game looked like shit. Right. And they made it look better so that you can see it. The original Lion King doesn't look like shit.
Also, it's not like the original video game had really masterful themes, and then when the sequel came out, those masterful themes weren't translated over. You know, that's like... They just made it look better, because the old one didn't look better. This one is just taking something that looked beautiful, and in my opinion, just making it look not so. It's stripping it down. It's stripping down everything that made these movies special. It's like if you take the Mona Lisa and then just trace over it with a piece of paper. It's like, I made the new Mona Lisa. The new one's here. No, you just made the Mona Lisa again. Mm-hmm. In a much less special way. I literally just made a video about this, as you know. I sort of predicted, I made a statement regarding Toy Story 4 and where my thoughts were on that. And so I'll reiterate once more my issue, and sort of it's been covered. They're taking these IPs, and they're simply making sequels that lack the soul, the passion, the creativity, the ingenuity of the originals, and they're just pumping it out, mainly for nostalgic purposes to drive revenue. That is the only reason. And, like, no disrespect against Jon Favreau. Like, I love the guy. He's great. He's made some great movies. But, like, it seems like I made this argument where, like, I'm more really upset about The Lion King. For me, I'm not so upset with, like, Dumbo, because based on the trailers and everything, it looks like he's taking, like, the essential story of Dumbo and putting his own twist on it. Mm-hmm. Like, he's adding, like, new characters and, like, whole new, like, plot threads, and it looks, like, really pretty, and he's putting, like, his own personal, like, Tim Burton flair on it, so that it's at least different enough, where it's still Dumbo, but it's something like, oh, that's new, I didn't think about it Right.
In this, where it looks like The Lion King's basically just a shot-for-shot remake. Like, obviously, we've only seen the teaser that's, like, the beginning of the movie. I could be completely wrong, but for me, it seems like they're not adding... Like, if you're at least going to remake... Like, they did this at least with, like, Cinderella and Lion King. It's like, they added new things to it that, like, modernized it or put, like, a new flair on it or something, just, like, put in a new song or just something like that. But I'm really worried that for Lion King, they're just gonna make Lion King again. Like, yeah, we're gonna see Mufasa die again. We're gonna see Be Prepared and like the whole like cool visuals and like the shadows and the green fire of like Be Prepared. I feel will just be completely lost in live action, and it just worries me that they're just making the same thing over again without adding anything different to it. Like they're literally like I was just so uninspired when I saw it because I'm like, this is something I've seen a million times over. Like, I'll be watching it and I'm like, oh, I could watch a much better movie at my house for free. I don't know why I paid to see the exact same thing. Okay, first off, this movie isn't even live action. Like, it's just they're making it a new form of animation.
Great CGI, yeah.
Like,
I mean, it's
probably some landscape shots and like establishing shots will be like real, but like these animals are they're CGI, so like you can't even call it.
It's like the Jungle Book. It's like what they did with the Jungle Book, in the sense that all the animals inside it were
3D animation at this point. So for me, that's just like, what's the point of doing it? Like, you're not adding anything to the story. Like, and like you could make the argument that like, oh, but it's a Lion King for the new generation. But it's like it's a rite of passage being like 2 years old and watching the Lion King. No, like you could be in 28 and a kid will still say he grew up watching the Lion King.
Because it's a timeless film.
It's just such like a impactful like animated movie that people just like watch it no matter what age it is. So like even kids who are like 5 years old will watch this and be like, oh, I already know the Lion King. Why am I watching this?
Well, that's the thing.
Obviously, you pointed out a good thing. It's going to make the most money in the world, so what do I know?
Right. Well, that's the thing. You pointed out a good point in that you have these classic films that are held in such high regard. And this extends from really when they started making, with Sleeping Beauty back in, what was that, the 30s? Shit, what was their first... That was so long ago, too. I'd say probably early 2000s. When you had the Pixar things with the Toy Story. Those are classic films that anyone can grow up watching. Anyone can relate to them. Anyone can put themselves inside it and be like, man, this is teaching me some good lessons. But what I want to give is that these remakes do not offer anything. As you stated, they're not anything new. In fact, they take away. And so that sort of relatability is gone. And that is why I think that no one really gives a fuck about it. Because they can't put themselves inside it. I watched The Jungle Book, and I really had a very difficult time getting not only over the past that Christopher Walken was playing a giant ape. That was a really big leap.
Actually.
Those are my favorite parts of the movie. I was sitting there, and I just heard his voice, and I might have died in the theater. I think I did.
I want to be like you. It's like I had a stroke halfway through the song.
I just want to be a good ape. So
I get with a kiss.
I can't be the ape.
Then he fucking dies. He gets
but
like horribly dies.
That's the thing. I'm really hoping that eventually Disney sort of, I don't want to say that their luck runs out on them, but that the people that are running it fully realize that, hey, you know what, I think it's about time we start making original content. Because what I want to give to you, and this is specific to Pixar, and this might extend to all of Disney, but at least with Pixar, it's the same people that made those fantastic movies back in the early 2000s, the mid-90s. It's the John Lasseter, it's the Pete Docter, it's the I think
Stanton, Brad Bird.
It's the same guys.
The guy who plays Doug, I can't remember his name, but yeah, they have like the Pixar, and like again, I'm not one to be like I know Toy Story 4 is going to be like a first-time director, and I'm not the kind of person who should be like, oh, you should never give these people new opportunities. Right. Like, you obviously, like, you need to give them a chance to, like, prove that they could become, like, the next great Pixar director, but for me, like, it hasn't worked well in the past. Like, The Good Dinosaur was directed by Peter So, and he was, like, a storyboard artist and, like, an animator, and he directed some shorts, and The Good Dinosaur wasn't good.
Exactly.
They gave him an opportunity to direct it. His first one, it didn't go well, and, like, that's kind of forgivable because, like, it was an original movie. He did his best. It'll give him room to grow. But I feel like when you take something as like popular and like immortalizing, culturally impacting as Toy Story, especially when you have to follow Toy Story 3,
right?
Which like was like the most perfect conclusion to a trilogy you can get, and then they just give it to this guy who's like never directed a Pixar. It's worrying to me.
It's
like
not.
He could be amazing. I could be completely wrong, but it's just like you do not want to be the guy who is known to fucked up the Toy Story franchise.
Your career is over.
If you're the one person who made a bad Toy Story movie and then made all the other ones look shitty just by being connected to it, you're never gonna work again. And people ostracize you to the day you die. So I'm very worried for him, but it's just like he took on like the most Herculean task ever.
Right.
Like he was literally handed the new Toy Story movie after. I don't even think this movie should have been made at all.
I don't think a lot of the movies in the past 8 years that Pixar has done, I do not think that they should have been made.
It's the very fact that like it's following Toy Story 3 was like the whole point of the movie was concluding and passing it on to the next generation of kids, and the ones who grew up with it are like going to college now, and like it literally was the perfect wrapped up in a bow, all loose ends tied up, perfect conclusion to one of the best trilogies ever made, and now they're just giving it to like someone who's never made a Pixar movie and has to like if he doesn't make this movie better than Toy Story 3, everyone will hate it. Like it could be good, it could be really good, but if it's not good as Toy Story 3, people will just immediately hate it.
And that's the important thing that I wish Disney and Pixar would realize, is that you really can't reach these bars that have been set by the movies you've made previously. And that will only disappoint and reflect poorly on you.
Like, I feel like Toy Story, or Pixar is now starting to kind of like maybe succumb or pander to the constant demands that the public are giving them. Like, the only reason Brad Bird made Incredibles 2 was that he could be like, alright, fine, shut the fuck up, it's made, leave me alone now.
Same with Finding Dory.
Yeah, like, he made it because it's like, for 14 years, people have been begging him to make Incredibles 2, and he's like, fuck it, fine, if I do this, will you let me do other stuff? Because, like, if you read in interviews, people always ask him, like, is there going to be a third one? It's like, I just made a second one. Like, shut up.
I just made a second one that was absolute shit, and that was really unbelievably mediocre. So, yeah, a third one is not in contention.
Yeah, like, and they're just, like, I feel like at this point, they're now just kind of like, people are like, oh, we want Toy Story 4. Okay, can we have Coco 2? It'll come out next year. Can we have Monsters, Inc. 4? You got it, guys. Like, I think they're just kind of, because they know people will spend money on it. Like, they know, like, obviously, no matter what they make, people are going to spend money. But I think they know more that if they, like, keep going back to these properties, that people are just, they're going to make billions of dollars off of it. And they know that. Like, they're a business. They know what's going to make them the most money. And it's these movies that people are just asking for rather than taking the time and, like, the money and the technology that they've been advancing to create something completely new that, like, this generation can grow up with.
Well,
or, like,
I think
like,
that's...
in years, we want a sequel to that.
I think that's why we're seeing the rise of some smaller studios like A24, which has produced some amazing films over the past 10 years. And, I mean, it's relatively small. And it's good. You can feel the passion in many of their projects. With Disney and Pixar, it feels so just stamped out and bland and just a cash grab.
Yeah, and the reason why, like, studios like A24 are great is because, like, the producers and, like, the studio exec, they trust their directors and their writers. Like, if you, like, even Marvel to some degree, or, like, especially Star Wars or, like, Pixar or stuff like that, or, like, the DCEU, they are, like, Warner Brothers is the biggest, like, committer of this crime, but they are constantly coming in and checking out the market saying, don't do that, do this, add in this is going to make us more money, put in that. And they, like, don't give their, like, directors or writers, like, any creative control to just do what they want. And that's why small, like, independent films like A24 and, like, Annapurna and, like, all stuff like that, they just trust their directors, and they'll be like, all right, here's your budget.
Go knock yourself out.
Every, like, once in a while what you're doing, but just make the movie you want to make. And that's why they're able to make such great films, is because their vision isn't, like, bogged down. Like, they were able to create the movie that they wanted to make, nobody's telling them no. Nobody's telling them, hey, put in this is going to make us more money. They're just concerned with making the movie that they want to make, and that's why so many of them are, like, fucking amazing, is because these are very talented directors and writers who were given the opportunity to just make the movie they wanted to make. And that's the mistake that a lot of these big studio companies want, is like, yeah, they're a business, they want to make money, but it's to the point where it's hindering their product.